Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tanzil Mirza. In the previous video we created an object using object literal. I also mentioned that there are three ways we can create objects with. We are already done with the first one. Okay, today we'll see the second way to create an object in JavaScript. So in the previous video we used object literals. I have wait, I'll show you. So today we're gonna use this new operator of constructors. Okay, let me minimize this thing. We don't need it anymore. Now as usual, on one side I'll open my Mozilla Firefox and on the other side I'll open my Impress, so that simultaneously we can work on both of them, and I can show you what effect my code has taken place in the memory. Okay, so in the previous video we used object literals. I have commented out that part here because we don't need it anymore. Today we'll be using a different thing. Today we'll see the new keyword and we'll see how we can create objects with it. With new keyword we always need a constructor. If you remember guys, in Java also with new keyword we always used to specify the default constructor. If you remember the previous example, any Java code, let's say for a class person, then we'll do person equals to new person and then the parenthesis. We are actually calling, after the new keyword, we are actually calling the default constructor of that class. Okay, so with this new keyword we always need a constructor, and in JavaScript it can be either an object constructor or a function constructor. We'll see both one by one in separate videos, but in this particular video we'll focus on new keyword with object constructor. We'll see this function constructor also in later videos when we'll be discussing functions in JavaScript in detail, but for now we'll do this new keyword with object function. Okay, so let's do this quickly. The syntax is very simple. Okay, here it is. The syntax is very simple. There is a variable person and we are calling the constructor of object. Okay, object here. This new keyword will create an object in the heap. Okay, whenever the compiler will come across, I'm talking about only this right hand side. When the compiler the JS engine will come across this line, this thing, new object, it will create a new object in the heap, and that object will be absolutely empty because we haven't provided any properties. In the previous example when we were using object literal, we created an object literal and we specified a property with the value then and there itself, but as you can see we are not specifying any property right here, so this newly created object is absolutely empty just because we haven't provided any properties yet. Remember, I told you it doesn't matter which technique you are using, the object will be represented in the memory in the similar way as we have seen previously with object literals. Okay, so as you can see, an empty object was created and a pointer is created in a stack which will be pointing to that newly created object in the heap, and as usual a variable person is also created, and which will be pointing to the pointer variable in a stack. If you have followed the previous video carefully, then you should not have any doubts still here. So this single line of code here, will set up everything for you. You can now add, remove properties to this object as we did previously before that. Let us have before this. But before that, let us have a closer look at this line of code. What is actually happening under the hood? The real star of the show is new keyword. Okay, it creates a new empty object in the heap. Okay, and wait, I'll show you. Let me just call this new object. Okay, in the next line, I'm simply calling this new object once again. I'm not assigning the return value to any variable. I'm just calling new object. Okay, it creates a new empty object in the heap. Okay, which is obviously an empty object because we are not specifying any property. So this new keyword, it creates an empty object in the heap, and the JS engine will assign a random pointer variable, as usual, a random pointer variable which will refer to that object. Okay, this is done by the JS engine. But such an object is absolutely useless. I mean, what will you do with such an empty object which you can't even mutate? See, remember I told you that all these pointer variables are automatically set and assigned by the JS engine. This thing is under the hood. It is behind the screen. You don't know what these pointer variables are. That's why I told you I'm using some generic names like pointer1 and pointer2. Exactly, I don't know we don't know that by what name it was assigned there. So what we know is this person thing. Okay, that's why we are returning all this thing we are storing everything in this our custom variable. Okay, so it creates a new empty object in the heap, and the JS engine will assign a random pointer variable as it always do. Okay, so you don't have any scope chain like this here. So the simply using new object is not enough. Okay, it's not enough. You have to store that reference manually in some variable. As you can see, we are storing it here in person. Now you have a variable this which will be pointing to the pointer, and it will be ultimately pointing to the object itself. So you don't have to worry about that. You have a complete well-defined scope chain here. But as far as this empty object is concerned, which is not even being referenced here, this pointer thing, don't worry about this. It will be it's now eligible for garbage collection. The garbage collection, the garbage collector will take care of this. So let's now quickly add some properties to this well-defined scope chained object, and it is always straightforward. So first let me create that object, where person is equals to new and then the object. Okay, doing this, this thing was created. Okay, an object was created, pointer will be pointing to that, and then person is like that. Okay, we have a well-defined scope chain over here. Okay, now let me add some property. As usual, person dot name is equals to, now again notice I'm using equals to instead of colon. Okay, if you remember, I said that whenever you are referencing to the properties of any object outside those curly braces of object literal, you will have to use equals to. Now the name is, let's say, Tanzil. Okay, oops, sorry, yeah. Okay, you have added this Tanzil. Now you can let me add one more property over here. Person dot com, the company name, let it be Philips. Press enter. It was also added. Let's see the changes here. I added this property Tanzil, it will be added there. Then again I added person.com, it was added there. Okay, it's actually, okay, I made a spelling mistake, I'm sorry for that, my bad. I made a spelling mistake, but it's quite understood. Okay, so now we'll delete this thing, but before deleting, let me first check console.log person.name. When I write person.name, I'm actually referencing to this name. Okay, let's see if it says Tanzil. Yeah, it says Tanzil. Now let me check one more thing, COMM, because I made a spelling mistake, so I'll have to use the same spelling which I have mentioned over here. Okay, it's Phillips. Now when I delete this thing, delete person.name, let's see what happens. Okay, this gets deleted. Now let me do the same over here also. Delete person.name. Okay, it says true. True means it was successfully deleted. Okay, now let me again console.log name. This thing, I've deleted the name. It's not there. It's no longer there. Let me now check what happens. I'm sure it will give me undefined. Yeah, it is giving me undefined. Why? Because I've deleted that property from here. Okay, and so now we know the second way to create an object, and rest of the operations were same. So this is how we create object using new keyword and object constructor. We can also use a function constructor with new keyword, but that we'll see later when we'll discuss functions in JavaScript. So that's all for this video. We'll see the third way of creating object using create method in the next video. So you can ask your doubts in the comment section below. Well, thank you for watching this video. We'll see you in the next video soon.